So when I moved into this house, this area back here was completely closed up. There was no opening here. And the only way to access this area was to kind of crawl in through the wall behind the water heater, under the steps, and then there's just this big open area back there. Now, if you look in there, you can see some shelving in there. And so I've got another video that I built that shelf unit, and I'll put a link to that up here. But since then, this has just been open. And if we step in here, so right on the other side of this wall here is the steps to my upstairs living room. And there's a lot of sound that will come through here. So right now my kids are up there playing video games. I don't know if you can hear them or not. But if they're up there, I can hear them down here. Anything I'm doing in the shop, they can hear up there. So I want to get a door here for that purpose, for sound transmission. But also, I'd like to seal this up a little bit, put a little bit of a weather seal or gasket on the door, just because under these steps is my furnace room. And so any chemicals or anything I'm using out here, if I close up the garage, that gets recirculated through the house, and I want to prevent that. So this particular doorway is only 27 inches wide, and typically you would put a door jamb and everything in here. But because I studied this out, I made sure to get this plumb. And so I'm going to just mount the door directly to here. And I want this to swing in. And I put my light switch for in here so that it is beyond where the door will reach when it's open. So you can still access the light switch once you go in. But that's going to be my project today. So I bought that door from a wholesale salvage place. It's a used door or never purchased door or whatever. And I'm going to have to drill a hole for the doorknob. I do need to trim. It's a 28-inch door, so I need to trim about a ½ inch off each side. I would typically run this through the table saw just for a nice straight cut, but my table saw is kind of buried behind a couple motorcycles right now, and this door is really heavy. And just trying to manhandle it, and then once it gets off the saw, I don't really have a good way to support that kind of weight. So I'm going to set it up on sawhorses and just use a circular saw with a guide. Okay, so here you can see this is a 2 foot 4 inch by 6 foot 8 3/4 inch solid core made by Ledco from 2005. So it's got some age on it, but I am going to have to trim a total of 1 inch off of this door. So ½ inch from this side, ½ inch from that side. And then these are screws that come with hinges, just from some old recycled hinges that I've got. And so looking at the screw length, and I marked, this mark here is ½ inch that I'm going to remove. So if I take that screw length, I'm still going to have plenty of meat for this particular screw length. And so I think I'll be safe doing that. Okay, so this is a little homemade sled, track, whatever you want to call, for a circular saw. This is actually, I made this for an old circular saw I had, could use this side, and my little cordless trim saw could use this side. I've since sold this saw, and I've got a different corded 7-inch circular saw. And my little trim saw just does not have the blade depth to get through this whole door. So I've had to set this up to fit that saw using this side. And I don't know if you can see the line here. I'm only taking half of an inch off, but this saw base plate is ½ inch wider than my cordless saw. And so I had to space it over another ½ inch just so I can use this edge for my straight edge and get the correct amount cut off. So let's go ahead and get this side cut. Now you can see I am going to have to move this down. Once I get to the end, I'm going to have to slide the whole thing down, reclamp it, finish my cut. All right, so there's one side cut off. And you can see down here, that didn't leave much of that style. This side is a lot thicker. But the weird thing is, when I go down here to the bottom, here's my 1/2 inch mark. You can see it's much thinner down here. And this side, we still have about 3/8 of an inch. So these stiles must not be completely square. So I was setting up to cut this other side, and I noticed that this edge of the door is beveled. So there's a slight bevel on there. Trying to get that. And so that is, I wish I had noticed it earlier, because that means that this was originally meant to be the lock side or the knob side. These are typically beveled just to provide a little clearance on the jamb when you swing it open. This would be the inside swung this way, and so as the door comes closed, this leading edge has a little bit extra clearance. But too late now. I've already cut that side, so I think I'm just going to do a square edge. If I need to, I can bevel that side because I plan on using this side as my hinge side. So there we go. Bottom is cut off. Let's see. I went ahead and mortised these hinges into place. I originally had them attached, but had to get them flush so that I've got room for the door in here. Okay, so I've got the door marked out where my hinges need to be. And then I don't have a trim router, but I've got a router base for my Dremel, and this is the closest thing. I've got these little bits. I don't even know what they are, little burr bits, whatever. So going to create a lot of dust, but I'll get the vacuum going and get these hinge mortises cut. And then I think we may be ready to mount hinges and get it in place. All right, hinges are mortised, holes are drilled for the screws, and I think I'm ready to go try to put this up in place. Well, I just realized my mistake. I should have mortised these the other way with the barrel of the hinge out this bottom side, and it should have came up and curved, but placement is correct. So I'm just going to open this up all the way to the bottom side. All right, so door is mounted. I don't have a doorknob on here yet, but let me go inside. And I need to put some stops on the outside, obviously, but it is swinging. You can see it comes, and I still have access to my light switch. And so these worked out pretty good. To get this in place, this is a really heavy door. And because I left this sill down here just for a little more support for that piece, I didn't want just a little tiny sliver under this frame. I left that in there, but because I know that's 2x4, I just had some little blocks there, and then I had just a few little scraps of like 1/8 inch thick plywood, and that got it where my hinge holes lined up perfectly with my hinge mortises, and I was able to just set it directly on there, start screwing in place, put 3 screws in, 3 screws in, 3 screws in, and then it was actually off of those blocks, and just able to swing freely. The knob and latch plate is installed. So to cut this knob hole, you can buy kits that do that, but really you just need a 2 1/8 inch hole saw and a 15/16 or a 1 inch hole saw to go in from the end. I used this vintage adjustable hole saw. So have you guys ever used one of these? You loosen this top nut stud thing, and then you can rotate this around, and these little teeth prongs slide in like a scroll cut piece in there, and you can resize it from 1 1/8 all the way up to 2.5 inches. So that's what I used. Worked really well. It's a good idea to make a test cut with those, just to make sure your hole is sized properly first. But got the knob hole placed in there at the 36-inch off the floor height. Just used a Forstner bit to hog out most of the material where my latch plate goes. I did not countersink this latch plate just because it wasn't needed. You can see I've got a pretty even reveal all the way around. Got some doorstop in here, and I just made this doorstop, and I just used the offcuts that I cut off the door and got the table saw out and just trimmed them down to roughly the same dimensions as commercially bought doorstop. Now, it doesn't have any decorative edging on it. I just used a hand plane just to kind of round over the edges a little bit, just so there weren't sharp corners. And then this top piece, I did have to do a little scarf joint there. But for what this is, it's fine. So the reason I went this route in making my own stop molding is I went to the big box store and was just gonna buy some stop molding. And for what it is, it's super expensive. And for some crazy reason, pine molding was almost $3 more per piece than oak stop molding. I don't understand that. So I just used what I had here, reduced what I was gonna throw in the trash, and made something useful out of it. So door's all finished up. I haven't decided if I'm gonna paint it. It does have, it's pre-finished. While it doesn't really match, I'm not really worried about it. I was just looking for sound deadening and keeping some airflow. I may eventually do something with the trim, but I think for now, I'm pretty well finished up with this project. That's gonna be it for this one. If you like what I do, give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, we'll see you later.